Hey everyone, it's Erin Flitter here, and I am here talking expenses with you all today, which I know is just everyone's favorite topic. But if you are like me, who is a 20 something, or even if you're older and you have kids and you need to save money and things like that, but if you're like me and a 20 something and you need to start preparing for like future and stuff, keeping track of your finances is pretty important. It's something that I personally have slacked on a lot, and with my wedding coming up, and a potential move, and all these types of things, I need to sit down and start thinking about it. So I decided to come up with, and by the way, a lot of this stuff I found on Pinterest and Instagram and things like that. So just FYI, there is a lot of material out there. This is by no means like an extensive amount of research or anything like that, and potential spreads that you can come up with. But I decided to include 10 different elements that you can add to your bullet journal to track anything having to do with financials that might be helpful to you. So I have marked it out a little bit so that I can talk over it, but I'm going to go ahead and speed you through while I create these spreads so you can see that it's not really a very time-consuming process to add these things. The most time-consuming process that you'll find is actually filling these out. So I'm going to go ahead and speed you up and then talk to you about it on the flip side. Elements that you can add to, I don't know, be better at your financial situation. So I'm just going to go through them with you. So the first one that I put down is categories, where you have a budgeted amount, which is in this gray box, and then you have your actual, and it's based on the week. So week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5. And then you can write down the total down here. And so you can do that for each category of your home. So I have home and bills. You can also have things like entertainment and dining out and stuff like that. But I just tried to give you kind of a snapshot, so that's why there's only a couple in each of these. Number 2 is a savings tracker. So one of the things that you can do, and I just labeled it 1 through 5, and then you could label it over here 1 through 5. But one of the things that I like to do is I like to set a goal for my savings. This is something that you can do on an annual spread. You can do it monthly, whatever. And then you can allocate however much you want to put to the side for that particular thing. For example, if my goal was like $200 or something to put aside this month for the wedding, then I would fill this up once I get the 200. If I decide, I can get about 250 and save that aside, then I can fill it up to there. Or you can do little designs or something like that. I've seen a lot of people do these types of designs in there, which you guys know this is one of my favorite designs. So you can do designs all the way up, something like that. I've also seen people do this in the form of a piggy bank, or you can do it in the form of a mason jar or something outside of this like boxy look to make it a little bit more decorative, just so that you can say, I'm setting this amount of money aside for this thing. For example, if you're doing travel and you're trying to save for a vacation and you're going on a vacation to, I don't know, Florida, then you can have like a little palm tree or something like that. I've seen stuff like that all over Instagram, and then you can fill it up. Same with like going to Disney World or something. You can have like Mickey Mouse ears or something like that. So the savings trackers are also a really good way to not only pretty it up, but to really make sure that you're setting money aside for these goal things that you're working towards. You can do it just one thing at a time. You can do 5 things at a time, things like that. The next one I have is an expense breakdown. So this would go with a page kind of like to the right where I have an expense log. You can categorize things with colors over here and associate it with a pie chart. You guys should, if you have credit cards, you probably know that a lot of credit card companies do this, where they kind of manually put it in these types of pie charts, but maybe you get a little bit more detailed in terms of what you want to track. For example, one month I was really, really bad with my coffee intake, and so I tracked my how much money I was doing recurring payments for into like a Starbucks app or a Dunkin' Donuts app or something like that, and I tracked that because I really wanted to get my coffee intake down. So you can really and that's not something that your credit card company would know that you want to track, but you can track something like that in your bullet journal. So that's a pretty cool thing as well. So pie charts really is more for the visual person to see, I can't believe I'm spending this amount of money on coffee. I can't believe I'm spending this amount of money dining out or something like that. And with that, like I said, is this expense log. And you guys have seen this all over Instagram, I'm sure, where you can denote the categories. If it's cash, credit card, I put a little mark here for need or necessity. For example, my rent would be a necessity. Going to an escape room with my friends, that's not really a necessity, right? So you can track how many of these things are necessities versus non-necessities. And one of the things I wanted to show is, you guys have seen me do this a lot lately, where I am doing every other line is colored. That way I can kind of differentiate the lines a little bit better. And you can do that with grays. You can do that with whatever accent color you have that month. So this one is pretty simple, and you don't have to track all this stuff. You can simply do the date, the description, and the amount and call it a day, and then you can actually get a lot more out of one page worth of stuff. especially if you're like me and you just spend all over the place. All right, number 5, I have a monthly budget, and number 6 that kind of goes along with it is a bills tracker. So I've seen this on a lot of financial development type blogs and things like this. It's called the 50-30-20, where essential expenses make up 50% of your budgeted amount. Personal choices such as getting Spotify or something like that, those account for 30, those should, quote unquote, should account for 30% of your total budget. And then financial priorities such as savings, Roth IRA, things like that can go down into the 20% category. So what you would just do is you would list out the thing, the description, you can do the budgeted amount and then the actual amount spent. Here, I didn't put headers for any of these things, but you can also include headers for that. And you would do the same thing with personal choices. For example, I would put like Spotify, $9.99, $9.99. And to go with that, I put this little bills tracker where like on November 1st, it was rent. I added this line afterwards where this is maybe like a recurring payment or an automatic payment. My rent is not an automatic payment, for example. But my Spotify is. It comes directly out. It's direct pay, basically. So you can add that in so that you know what bills you need to actually pay attention to and pay, and what bills are being taken out automatically, and at what point during the month are they being taken out automatically. So that is a monthly budget that you can add. The next one is an annual spending. I saw this on Pinterest for credit cards, and I thought it would be interesting to not only do it with credit cards, but by the categories, because I don't know about you guys, but I really only get stuff out of my financial trackers when I see what categories are that I'm spending the most in, and the only way I can really do that is with colors. So I thought it would be interesting to list home and then a few things that I consider in my home category, such as groceries, furniture, home improvements, things like that. Bills, which would be like rent, subscription services, also car payments, stuff like that. And then a savings bar. For me, that would be like saving for the wedding or my Roth IRA, also things like that. And you can do this, you can add this to the front of your bullet journal and do it all year. And then I went in because unless it's like ticked all the way up, I'm not really going to know. So I think it's a good idea to write in the amount in each category. You can do this with credit cards. You can do it like I did, where you split it up into your separate categories. You can add a little line here for the goal for each month that you don't want to go past, for example. And I like doing it the yellow through red because those colors really like shock me. So that will catch my attention more than doing some nice like blues and purples and things. It won't make me feel like I really need to pay attention to it. So I like doing these hot colors to grab my attention. So that was element number 7 that you can add. Number 8 is a simple expenses tracker. If you don't want to go line by line of what you spend every single day, one of the easiest things that you can do is just track intake versus outtake. So for example, I get my income from multiple sources, or if both you and your spouse are earners, then you can split this up into multiple categories. I'm just going to put in some dummy numbers here. So for example, if I were tracking myself, I would have 2 columns for me, my full-time job and my business, and then the third for my fiance. But I'm just going to split it into 2 because most people probably have a 2-income household. And then your expenses, which again, you can do by categories. I'm just going to put one expense. That way you can see on week 1, that's what this 1 through 5 is. On week 1, let's say, and you can do it bi-weekly also. Like I get paid bi-weekly in my job. So I'm just going to put a little arrow and say I'm getting paid on week 2 and say 1,500. So that way I know that since I'm getting paid bi-weekly, that's that amount. But on Etsy, for example, I get paid every week. So let's just be like 500. These are not actual numbers, by the way. And then you can put the total income down here. And then for expenses, you can either, just look at the end of the week and say, oh, I spent $500. And you can do this with a budgeted amount also. My budget was $300. I should have waited for that a little bit longer. And you can track that way. So this is a really, really simple one, and it's one of the ones that I like to use so that I don't get really, really anxious, just doing a basic income and expense tracker. Generally, what you want is your income is more than your expenses. So that way you can just see, like on a weekly basis, maybe you're on week 3 and your income is lower than your expenses, and then you know that you need to save some money at the end of the month and maybe not splurge on those big ticket items. For example, the 9th one I have is a debt graph, which you can do this with, again, similar to this annual spending one. You can do this with your different types of credit cards. I have, for example, credit cards, loans, and car payments here. And the idea is January through December, you would just mark the amounts of your debt. You could do the debt that you want to pay off that year. For example, if you want to pay, and how I have it set up, if you want to pay off $1,000 in that year, you can just start at the 1,000 and then work your way down. If your goal is to get down to like $300, then you can have this area down here. So like it would be lovely if you could get all $1,000, but your actual goal is to get down to this like 200 mark or something like that. So that's an example there, and it's just a basic line graph with colors denoting the type of debt. And then the last one is a fun one. There's a few different types of these savings challenges. So I would Google or Pinterest or anything like that, savings challenges, and you can, in the bullet journal community, and you can see a ton. One of the ones that I like the concept of is marking things 1 through 52. So once a week you put money aside, and it is any one of these numbers. So for week 1, for example, if I have a lot of bills going on and I can only afford to set $1 aside that day, then I'm going to mark week 1, 1/1/19 and set that $1 aside. If in week 2 I have a little bit more money to spend, I can mark $20 and do week 2, 1/7/19. If in week 3 I'm good to go, maybe I'll do the full 52 and put week 3 and then put the date there. And so you can just mark off on each of these. This amounts in a total of like over $1,300 if you set these numbers aside once a week for 52 weeks. So, I mean, if you're looking to get over $1,000 in savings for something, this is a really cool way to do it. So that is my last one. And I hope you guys like these different types of things. Like I said, there are a ton of examples on Pinterest, on Instagram that you can copy, that you can formulate to fit your type of needs. a lot of these are things that I found that I just formulated for my type of needs. For example, I know that I'm a visual person, and so I saw this one with credit cards, and I thought it would be really good to do it by category. So for home, bills, savings, etc. And for this one, like I said, with the incomes, you can split it up into however many incomes your household has. If it's only one, then you only have one column. If it's multiple, like my family, then you can have multiple options there. So I hope this gives you a lot of food for thought, that you guys can think about your own financial futures. I know that this is always kind of a big thing right around the holidays, right around, getting ready for tax season and things like that. For me, it's right before the wedding, so I'm also thinking about that. So I really hope these types of elements can help you in your savings coming up. And I hope you guys enjoy this type of video. If you do, let me know in the comments below. If you want to see another 10 types of blank tracker, let me know in the comments below, because it's really fun to go ahead and look at different types, do a little bit of research, figure out what will work for me, because I know I'm going to be incorporating some of these into this month and next month in particular, while I'm getting ready for tax season and all that type of stuff. So, like I said, let me know in the comments below, and I hope to see you again. I also have a couple other 10 types of videos, so I'll link those in the description also. If you like this video, subscribe, notification bell, all that kind of jazz, and I will see you later. Bye, everyone.